When your circumstances don't define your destiny, have you ever felt like the cards were stacked against you? Like no matter how hard you tried, the world just wasn't designed for your success? I recently had the privilege of interviewing Latonya Owens, a remarkable woman whose insights on resilience have fundamentally transformed how I view adversity. Latonya isn't just another motivational speaker. She's a living testament to the power of human determination. Through her work mentoring young women facing seemingly insurmountable obstacles, she has created ripples of transformation that have touched thousands of lives. Her message resonates with such authenticity precisely because she has walked through fire and emerged not just intact but radiant. Her core message was clear and powerful. Your circumstances do not define your destiny. Now, that statement might sound like something embroidered on a throw pillow at your local home goods store. But when it comes from someone who has faced abandonment, isolation, and barriers that would crush most spirits, it carries a weight that demands attention. The truth is, we're all just one decision away from a completely different life. One decision to keep going when everything inside us screams to give up. One choice to believe when doubt feels like the only rational response. I want to share what I learned from Latonya's wisdom because her message isn't just inspirational, it's transformational. And in a world where so many of us are struggling to find our footing, especially Black women who've been carrying too much for too long, this message of resilience feels like water in a desert. Let me tell you about Richelieu Dennis. His story embodies everything Latonya was talking about. Dennis didn't start with advantages. He immigrated to America from Liberia with his mother during civil unrest. They were literally fleeing war. Can you imagine that level of disruption? That kind of trauma? Most of us struggle to recover from a bad performance review, let alone rebuilding your entire life in a foreign country after escaping violence. But here's what's remarkable. Instead of letting that trauma define him, Dennis and his mother started making natural beauty products based on family recipes. They sold these products at street fairs in Harlem. Not exactly the fast track to success, right? I mean, when's the last time you heard a venture capitalist say, you know what I'm looking to invest in? Street fair vendors. Year after year, they faced rejection. Mainstream retailers weren't interested. Banks weren't eager to provide capital to Black entrepreneurs with no collateral. The financial hardships were real and persistent. There were countless moments when giving up would have been the rational choice. But Dennis had this philosophy that aligns perfectly with what Latanya emphasized. Circumstances don't define destiny, choices do. So, what did he choose? He chose to reinvest whatever small profits they made back into the community. He chose to stay authentic to his mission of serving underserved consumers. He chose to build brand loyalty through the genuine connection rather than flashy marketing. And today, that little street fair business called Shea Moisture is a global beauty brand that was acquired by Unilever for $240 million. But more importantly, it continues to invest in Black owned businesses and communities, creating a legacy that extends far beyond products on shelves. That's what happens when you refuse to let your circumstances write your story. But let's be honest, it's easy to look at success stories in retrospect and think, well, of course it worked out for them. The journey itself, those dark nights of doubt, those moments of near surrender, those aren't captured in the highlight reel. That's why I find Angela Dotson's story so compelling. Angela built her consulting business after seeing firsthand how few resources existed for Black business owners seeking financial empowerment. But her path wasn't straightforward. She encountered systemic barriers, lack of mentorship networks, funding gaps due to discrimination, personal setbacks that would have derailed many entrepreneurs. There were moments when giving up seemed like the only rational option. But as Latonya would say, faith and resilience are powerful forces. They're the invisible muscles that strengthen not in the gym, but in the struggle. Angela chose to leverage every setback as fuel. When doors closed, she built windows. When traditional paths were blocked, she created new ones. She sought out partnerships, advocated for policy changes locally, and began mentoring others facing similar obstacles. Today, her firm helps dozens of minority owned businesses access capital each year. She runs workshops on wealth building strategies tailored specifically for underrepresented groups. She's recognized nationally as an advocate for minority economic advancement. But here's what's truly remarkable about Angela's journey. She was raised in an environment where entrepreneurship wasn't encouraged or modeled. She had no blueprint, no safety net, no cheerleading squad. What she had was a refusal to be limited by circumstance or lack of connections. And that refusal, that daily choice to keep pushing, transformed not just her life, but the economic landscape for hundreds of others. This is what Latonya means when she says every step forward matters, even if it's hard won. Now, let me tell you about Pinky Cole, because her story might be the most dramatic illustration of resilience I've encountered. Imagine losing everything, not just facing setbacks, but complete devastation. That's what happened to Pinky when her restaurant was destroyed by fire. She was left with nothing but debt and shattered dreams. Many people would have taken this as a sign to find a more stable career path. Not Pinky. With no safety net except her determination, she launched a plant based burger restaurant called Slutty Vegan. Let's pause on that name for a second. Slutty Vegan. In an industry already skeptical of both vegan food concepts and young Black women CEOs, she chose a name that raised eyebrows and turned heads. That's not playing it safe. That's boldness born from the knowledge that you've already survived your worst day. Pinky faced bankruptcy risk twice before age 35. She experienced public failure, but she used social media to share her real struggles, making authenticity part of her brand's appeal. She refused to hide her setbacks, and that vulnerability became part of Slutty Vegan's growth strategy. Today, Slutty Vegan boasts multiple locations nationwide with celebrity fans and headlines about the hottest burger joint run by a resilient Black woman entrepreneur. During COVID, when restaurants were closing left and right, she expanded. She created jobs and scholarships through the Slutty Vegan Foundation. But what strikes me most about Pinky's story is something Latonya emphasized in our conversation: the role of faith. Pinky grew up watching her Jamaican immigrant parents hustle, but she struggled alone through crisis until she rebuilt using lessons learned from past loss and faith that God had more ahead if she kept moving forward. This is the essence of what Latonya wants us to understand. Faith isn't just spiritual comfort, it's practical fuel for the journey when your tank is empty. These stories aren't just inspiring anecdotes, they're proof that what Latanya is saying is true. Your circumstances don't define your destiny. Faith and resilience are powerful forces, and every step forward matters, even when it's hard won. But here's where I want to challenge you. and myself. It's not enough to hear these stories and feel temporarily motivated. Motivation without action is just entertainment, what Latonya wants for all of us, especially those feeling isolated or unsupported, is to take one bold step toward our goals today. Not when conditions feel perfect, not when we have all the resources we think we need. Today. Maybe that's applying for something that feels out of reach. Maybe it's asking someone new for help, or maybe it's simply deciding not to quit right now in this moment when everything in you wants to surrender. Because here's what these stories teach us: the path to success isn't a straight line, it's not even a winding road. It's more like a series of cliffs that require leaps of faith. And sometimes the only thing separating those who make it from those who don't is the willingness to keep jumping. I know some of you are thinking, that sounds nice, but you don't understand my situation. And you're right, I don't. But neither did Richelieu Dennis's potential investors understand his. Neither did the industry insiders understand Pinky Cole's vision. Neither did the traditional financial institutions understand Angela Dotson's mission. They didn't need to. Because, as Latonya would say with that Taraji P. Henson straight up honesty, if she made it out, you can too. But only if we stop lying about how hard it gets sometimes and choose every day not to let anything break us down permanently. So here's my challenge to you today. What would your life look like if you truly believed your circumstances don't define your destiny? What bold move would you make? What dream would you resurrect? What pain would you transform into purpose? I want you to take out your phone right now. Yes, right now. And I want you to set a reminder for 24 hours from this moment. When that reminder goes off, I want you to have taken one concrete step toward the future you want, not the one your circumstances dictate you should have. Because the most dangerous lie we tell ourselves isn't that we can't succeed, it's that we have to wait for perfect conditions before we try. Your circumstances are real. The obstacles you face are valid, but they are not the final word on your story. You are. And that realization isn't just personally transformative, it's revolutionary. Because when enough of us refuse to be defined by our circumstances, we don't just change individual destinies. We change systems, we change cultures, we change the world. So, what will you choose? The comfort of excuses or the discomfort of growth, the safety of limitations or the risk of possibility. Your destiny is waiting for your decision.